Alright, so I'm going to talk about math workstations. Math workstations help students practice problem solving, helps them with their communication skills within math, and it makes connections among the different math topics. It'll help to motivate the children to practice and learn because it keeps their attention by providing choices for them, making the learning relevant and personal, and it also makes it very engaging. You'll have different stations with different activities and lessons in each one, which gives them the opportunity to choose which activity they want to do in each of the stations, which helps it be very engaging and personal. You'll have the students in groups of 2 or 3, usually no bigger, and you will assign them each a number because each of the stations should have like a number assigned to them so that the students know what they're doing, where they're going, and where they have to go next. You want to make sure that you use every square inch of your room to have them spread out when they're doing their stations. It'll help keep the noise levels down. The tasks at each station are also taking place of a worksheet, so don't use any of the worksheets in the stations because that kind of just defeats the purpose of them. You can have instead you can have the students play games, act something out, build something, tell a story, do something new. It just keeps them motivated and gets them engaged in what they're doing. So the other question from the reading was like, why workstations instead of work centers? And I never really thought about that. I never really thought there was a difference, but after I read it, it was quite interesting actually. So it tells us that the workstations has an emphasis on teachers modeling and students taking responsibility for their own learning, whereas the centers, the teachers usually will often do too much of the work. It tells us. In the stations, all of the students get to participate in the stations, and it will actually make them work harder because they really enjoy it. It also allows the teacher to differentiate the materials for the various levels in the classroom so that everyone is able to participate, and then it also helps the students to internalize new concepts because of the opportunity to practice the skills just like it was modeled in class. So some recommendations for the math stations is that you use portable containers for the manipulatives. That way you can keep everything in one bucket and students can all put them back so that you don't lose anything. They also recommend that you put labels on the front with numbers so that each group knows which bins to take. Usually you would give a group a number, and then that would be the number on the bin that they would grab. You should keep the bins on shelves or desks that are easily accessible for the students so that they can grab it and put it back whenever they are done. You should always use materials from the previous whole group lessons because they need to be able to perform the tasks that you are asking them to for it to be effective. You should also give students a choice of what to do, so like 2 or 3 things like I said before. If you have more than that, they can sometimes become too overwhelmed and just kind of shut down. So just keep it to 2 or 3, and then that also just helps them feel a little bit more in control and more willing to do the work, and it'll be more enjoyable for them. It also, all the choices that you have will help take care of like the early finishers so that you don't have people just sitting around or playing games, random games. They'll have more math activities to do so that they keep learning. While the students are participating in the activity, it's also a great opportunity for the teacher to observe and gather data on the individual students. They can take the information recorded and use it to make informed decisions about meeting students' needs individually or in small groups. It's just a great opportunity for both students and teachers to use that time well. So some of the activities that I liked, the first one was when the students would perform a survey and ask their classmates questions. They then had to take the information gathered and come up with some observations about their findings. I really like this because it can be something as simple as like, what is your favorite color, what's your favorite food, and then it's beginning to teach them about making observations from all different types of data and information, and then learning to analyze it. The second activity that I liked was when the students use a book to create patterns using connecting cubes that match the colors in the book. I like this one because it brought in a fun story and it involved math at the same time. They were able to read and enjoy a story, but they were also learning about patterns. It is also just a great way for them to connect math to other subjects and activities in their life as well. So, yeah, those were the two that I really liked. The two questions that I had were that the reading tells us that when we first begin with stations, we will probably only have about one activity in each station. But then later on, it tells us that having two or three is really important in getting the students involved and motivated. So is it still going to be as beneficial at the beginning even if they only have one station? Or should you just wait till you have more built up to start the stations? The second question that I had was that the reading talks a lot about activities for younger students, but nothing about older students like middle school or high school even. So what would you do for them? Does it work for them? Does it not work for them? I kind of figure it would still work for all the grades, but what would be some activities that you would recommend for the older students too? And that's it. Thanks.